way they transfer the money into foreign bank accounts makes them vulnerable. There are other aspects also. The third aspect would be what this money does to your investment priorities in India. In our country, people wonder how is it that even when there's an economic recession, the property market never seems to fall. The answer is very simple. Much of the property market is dealt with in black money. So black money goes into property markets. The property prices today are so high. To get an apartment in Bombay or Mumbai is as expensive as getting it in London, or even more expensive. So the property market rates of return are now so high that people who are making investment in making cloth for the people or shoes for the people, they say, why should we put money into this? We'll put it in property. This is one of the things. Similarly, with much of the money, people buy all kinds of luxury goods for their houses, air conditioners, refrigerators and all. I'm not talking about the usual things that middle class buys. I'm talking about the high class, high quality things that they buy and put it in every room. The amount of money that they spend on luxury goods is a huge amount. And as a consequence, all the luxury goods industries, the rate of return goes up. And when the rate of return goes up, the future investments will pull out from other sectors and saying, why should we earn 5% on our investment when we can earn 25% on luxury goods production? So today, 70% of our investments are directly or indirectly going to produce luxury goods in a country which has, say, 30% people poor, and you have this kind of a lopsided investment priority because of corruption. Today, people complain about food prices. And food prices are going up not because there is a real slump in food production, at least not in that ratio. What is happening is that the government has cleared, for some mysterious reason, forward trading in food grains prices. So today what is happening is the farmer is not going to accept a check. He wants cash. So industrialists have got into the agricultural market. They go to the wholesale market and buy up everything that the farmer brings. And then they put it in cold storages and so on, and create an artificial shortage in the country. And the food prices shoot up. And at the peak of it, they take out all that from the cold storages, and it comes back in the market, and then the prices fall. If you look at the agricultural prices of the last 3 years, you'll see a highly cyclic movement, and this is because of now, for the first time, the entry of black money into agriculture. So you see even your stock markets. What happens today is that money goes abroad and then comes back to India under a financial derivative called participatory note. And it goes into the stock market shoots up, and then you sell, and then the stock market comes down, and then again when it's at the bottom, you again bring money from abroad, rerouting it. Money going from your country out, and then through Hawala, and then coming back into India through the participatory note. The stock market today is out of control. It is in a highly fluctuating stock market. So the whole economy is disturbed. It's no more a question of grease money. It's not a question of some fellow getting a contract, giving the minister some money which he needs for an election or something like that. It impacts the whole economy. And therefore, I consider this as a very, very serious cancer on our society. And it lowers the rate of return on money. It sub-optimizes your investment priorities. The quality of goods you get goes down. And the extent of adulteration goes up, because then there is no one. Once corruption starts, then who's going to do the monitoring? So the whole economy has been completely dented. Our country would have been a developed country today had, in 1947, Jawaharlal Nehru not prevailed over Sardar Patel and even Mahatma Gandhi. See, both Mahatma Gandhi and Sardar Patel wanted a market system. They didn't want the government to get into business, into economic activities. They wanted the government to maintain law and order and do other things to make society more livable. But Jawaharlal Nehru was enamored of the Soviet Union. One never knows why he was so enamored of Soviet Union. Perhaps there was something to do with what the Soviets did to Subhash Chandra Bose, I don't know. It's a future research that will reveal that. But he was enamored of this Soviet model, which didn't work anywhere in the world. And he put it in India. Now, what was the Soviet model? The Soviet model was that you industrialize the nation by squeezing agriculture, by extracting resources from agriculture and putting it in industrialization. That's what Stalin did in Russia. But that was not suitable for India. Because during the British period, they appointed the zamindari system. They appointed zamindars in a zamindari system. And what was the zamindari system? All the criminals were picked up by the British and told, we, the British Indian government, want so much money every year to run the administration of India and to finance make payments to the British soldiers who are coming from England. And for our administrative expenses, we need so much money. You collect us so much money and give it to us every year. How much you collect, we are not concerned. You can collect 10 times that much from the people. But you must give us this X amount every year to us. And we will empower you with the right to make seizures, confiscate land, do whatever you want. Literally made them into authorities, legal authorities in the rural areas. And the zamindari system sucked the blood of the peasantry. Why it was brought? Well, it's a convenient system. You don't have to collect money from the people. Somebody is collecting it for you, and he happens to be an Indian. But more, they were concerned that in 1857, which the British had called as mutiny. It was not a mutiny. It was like Veer Savarkar said, it is the first war of independence, where the peasantry financed the Rajas and Maharajas and provided them with the access, the equipment, the manpower to launch this battle royal for the liberation of India. And afraid that this peasantry has done this, it can do it again, the British decided to break the back of agriculture. And our agriculture became poor and miserable only because of that. There were some princely states which had reached an agreement with Britain after they had given a beating to British troops. The British signed an agreement with them, like the Sikhs. The Sikhs had beaten up in 1846 the British soldiers. And so the British signed an agreement with them. So agriculture in these states, princely states, were not that much affected. That's why Punjab at time of independence was already ahead of the rest of India. And parts of Mysore, Tanjavur, these are all doing relatively better than other parts of India, certainly better than UP and Madhya Pradesh and so on, because of the fact that these tracts were directly administered by the British. And so this Jamindari system extracted everything from agriculture. In 1947, our agriculture was bone dry. And this bone dry agriculture, you put a Soviet model to extract more resources from that. It shows how unreal and out of touch with India Jawaharlal Nehru was. And this model then had an additional feature, which was even worse, which was that all transactions will be dominated by the state government, by the government, and it will be done through licenses and quotas. These licenses and quotas were to be given by the government for anyone wanting to do any economic activity. And ultimately what happened is a new class of touts came in, and these licenses and quotas began to be sold in the black market. And that's how the process of black money started in India. The licenses and quotas. The Soviet model was a failure, we all know. The best example of that is the comparison between East Germany and West Germany. They were one country till 1945. Germany lost the war. Then the Allies broke Germany into two countries, East Germany and West Germany. West Germany adopted democracy, market economy. East Germany, under Soviet influence, adopted the Soviet model. In 1990, both East Germany and West Germany became one again after the break of the Berlin Wall. And then the world saw the huge difference between East Germany and West Germany. Even today you can go and see. East Germany is far behind East Germany. That is almost like a laboratory test, because the Germans were one people, one history, one background, equally destroyed in World War II. And you see, by 1990, West Germany has become a developed country, and East Germany is far behind. And because the Soviet model did not produce any results. It didn't produce in North Korea compared to South Korea. It didn't produce for China before economic reform, and after economic reform you can see the difference. And ultimately, it didn't do it for Soviet Union, which invented the model. Nambudripad used to jokingly tell me very often, when the Soviet Union, in its heydays of the Soviet Union, do you know, he said, Mr. Swamy, there is no inflation in Soviet Union, there is no poverty in Soviet Union, there is no unemployment in Soviet Union. In 1991, August, I told him, now there is no Soviet Union also. 16 countries it is broken into: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Lithuania, Georgia, etc., etc. It's broken into 16 countries today. And we see how far behind the Soviet Union really was. So this Soviet model not only ruined our economic development, we had a food crisis in 1965, we had a foreign crisis, and it's only after 1990 when Narasimha Rao asked me to prepare the blueprints for economic reforms, and his finance minister implemented it, Mr. Manmohan Singh, and an economic revolution came to our country, growth rates increased. So during this period, enormous corruption had taken place by the sale of licenses and so on. That's how it started. But now it is continuing even after market reforms, because it's continuing in those areas where there is no market principle operating. 2G is what? There was no auction of the licenses. What was done is that Raja decided that he will allot license on what he calls as first come, first served principle. Those who come first to him will get the license first. I mean, it's a very strange way. Raja was asked, on what basis are you doing first come, first served? He said, in cinema tickets also, those who come first will get the cinema ticket. So why not here also? But it was actually a device for his favorites to get the license. And people who had access to him came and on the day appointed when we were to come and be first in the line or first in the queue, some people are already sitting in his office collecting the license. And he fixed, and the price of that spectrum was fixed not at the market price of 2008, but the market price of 2001. That was fixed by Chidambaram, because he was finance minister, and he was responsible for fixing the spectrum price. Today, he has now again been appointed chairman of the group of ministers to determine the spectrum price for 3G. So at that time also he was solely responsible. And he contributed the price fixing at 2001, and Raja in this first come first served basis. And there was a huge difference between the prices of 2001 and price of 2008. Because in 2001 the number of mobile sets was only 40 million. In 2008 it is 700 million mobile sets in India. So a huge market, big demand, and the price was 10 times. 2001 price was 10 times price of 2001. Raja also said, no, if I give spectrum prices cheaply, then tariffs will also be low. Yes, provided you didn't allow these people to sell the licenses. So many of the companies which got the licenses at a low price of 2001 sold it to foreign companies at 8 times the price. Some of them sold part of the licenses. That is, they gave a share of use of licenses. Like Tata sold to Docomo, or somebody sold to Sistema, somebody sold to Vodafone. But two companies which had nothing to do with telecom, Swan Telecom and Unitech, both property companies. They were not telecom companies, they were property companies, real estate companies. And they sold it to Etisalat and to Telenor at 8 times the price. And without doing any work, they got 8 times the price they paid to the government of India. So imagine the huge profit they would have made. A total loss to the nation. Had the nation used the market force, namely the auctioning, then India would have got, the Indian government would have got $40 billion more than what it got. What it got was hardly $3 billion. But they would have got $40 billion. And this $40 billion you could have got just by auctioning it. And after all, there was an auction, but it was a private auction. That is, those who got the license from the government, they sold it at market prices to foreign companies. So I went to the Supreme Court. Of course, I went first to the High Court. High Court said, no, how can we cancel the licenses? So High Court rejected my petition. That time everybody said, oh, what the Swamy was saying this and Swamy was saying that. The High Court is dismissed it. Went to High Court, the Supreme Court. Argued, Supreme Court cancelled all the licenses and said, order auction. Now auctions will start in August. And you know, with the new market price of 2012, you know how much the government is going to get in revenue? It is going to get 7 lakh crore rupees in new revenue. Our total tax bill is 5 lakh rupees, 5 lakh crore rupees. I mean, the tax revenue that government gets total is 5 lakhs. And in one auction, and that too of 2G, there's 3G left, there's 4G left, all that is to be auctioned. But in one 2G, you're going to get 7 lakh rupees, 7 lakh crore rupees. Same thing with auctioning. So after the economic reform, the reform has been more deregulation. It has not been the open acceptance of the market principle. Wherever possible, the government is putting an obstruction. Right now, in the Supreme Court is a case which I've left in the middle, but I hope by the time my turn won't come before I return back, which will be on 31st. The Supreme Court is hearing a government petition saying, okay, you can auction the spectrum, we don't mind. We agree to that. There's no question of they're not minding because I won the case. The court has directed you have to do an auction. But I also argued that that same logic which the court has used for ordering auction of the spectrum, the same logic can be applied to all other natural resources. So the government is getting very upset. And so they've gone to Supreme Court and said, no, no, this policy should be only for spectrum. And I'm arguing, no, it should be for all. Well, we'll see how it goes. But in my opinion, if we are going to adopt the market system, then we must apply the marketing procedure everywhere. Discretion should be the minimum. So today, if the corruption has come to this level, it is this privilege you have given to public authorities to handle the resources of the country in their own discretion. In my opinion, if we had made sure that public officials have no discretion whatsoever in how they are going to price a resource, natural resource particularly, or any resource within the power of the government, but that it will be decided, the price will be decided by the market. You can put additional conditions. For example, if somebody wants land for schools, we don't have to auction. We can make special arrangements for that and say that the government fixes this flat price for schools. But for commercial purposes, commercial exploitation, the government must auction in every case. And if that is done, you won't have to pay taxes at all in India. You will get enough revenue this way. So consequently, it is the failure in the economic reforms, because only really economic reforms took place in the 5 years when Narasimha Rao was Prime Minister, and I had also held a minister rank position with him with the job of looking after the WTO matters. Finance Minister was Manmohan Singh. Of course, Manmohan Singh is very good when you ask him to implement something, but if you ask him to take decisions, he can't take decisions, you see. He's not cut out for that kind of thing. So as Prime Minister, he's a failure. But as Finance Minister, he was good, because Narasimha Rao would consult with me, and then he would tell Manmohan Singh, you have to do this, and he used to do it efficiently. So that after that 5 years, there's been no serious economic reform. There's all fiddling, little bit here, little bit there. But the fundamental thing of knocking out wherever politicians, public officials had discretion, that has not taken place yet. Even today, if you want a electric connection, you have to pay a bribe, because it is still, the distribution is owned by the states. If you go to any state outside Delhi, you go to any state, Madhya Pradesh, the state government owns the state electricity board, or rather controls the state electricity board. So the market reforms have not come in a big way into India. Same thing with labor unions. We are still working in the Soviet model stage, where the labor unions, have a stranglehold on industry. And that's why industry is preferring capital-intensive production when capital is most expensive and labor is cheapest in India, but we are not doing it. So I would say that the fault is not in economic reforms. People say, oh, economic reforms came and this has all happened. So the third part I would say is that is because of our error in adopting a economic model which was not suited for India, and disregarding the advice of Mahatma Gandhi and Sardar Patel, we went with the decision of Jawaharlal Nehru to have a government-controlled economy. And by the time 40 years are over, only then we could get rid of it. And even today, we have not got rid of it fully. It's still there in parts, and those parts which are causing the corruption. Now, a question arises, is there any way now to reverse this vast spread of corruption in the country? Well, I think there is a way. One good thing I find in India is that every corrupt person says, no, I'm not corrupt, I'm a very honest man, it's all politically motivated, these charges, and so on. No one says, no, corruption is necessary, I have to do it, Baba, I have to pay for my election, I have to pay this, I have to pay that. Nobody. In Indonesia, you will find politicians say, Little money here and there we have to take because we have to run our expenses and so on. But in India, even today, everybody wants to be known as a sadhu and says, no, 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 I am very honest, I am very upright, see, I'm so honest, but you see, this is all politically motivated, media organized, etc., etc. So there is still, honesty is still a value. And I think that is because of our Sanatan Dharma. See, in Sanatan Dharma, you see, we divided society not on the basis of money. In America, if you're a rich man, you have social status. And there's no other real criteria. I mean, there may be some here and there in small pockets, but generally the society values the wealthy because it's a materialistic society. And India is not like that. And this occurred to me first time when I came as a student to get my PhD at Harvard. And my classmate, an American, asked me, can you explain to me why Indians followed Mahatma Gandhi? So I said, why? What is wrong with Mahatma Gandhi that you think we should not have followed him? He said, no, he doesn't wear clothes properly. He just wears a little rotten piece of cloth around his body. In our country, a leader must be very well dressed. He must have suit, boot, his shoes must be shining. Only then. And when I started thinking about it, I said, yes, even their dharma gurus, the Pope, for example, he has satin gown, diamond necklace, ruby necklace, sapphire necklace. His cap is full of jewels. Whereas our sadhus only wear bhagwa. Take Baba Ramdev, he may have 1,000 crores with him, but he wears bhagwa. It's only partially covered body. So this simplicity, sacrifice, has been a value. And if you look at the original concept of Varna, which is now degenerated into birth-based, originally, what do you find? You find that at the top was the person who had learning and nothing else. The Brahmin, for example, did not have wealth, did not have weapons, did not have land. Rishi Bhrigu had said that in society there are 4 sources of power: learning, knowledge, weapons, wealth, land. And he said that they should be distributed. Should not be in the hands of one person. And you found, therefore, the Brahmins had knowledge, but did not have weapons, did not have wealth, did not have weapons, wealth, or land. But he was most highly respected. The king had weapons, but he could not make policy. Policy, he had to go to the Brahmin and get a clearance. People who had wealth, it was nothing wrong with making wealth, but you would be judged by how much philanthropy you do. The more you give after meeting your basic needs, then only you get social status. And those who had land would be the same. There was, of course, a section whom were cut out and what came to be known as untouchables, but their children were not untouchables. Valmiki's parents were Dalit parents, but he became a Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana. Similarly, Vedavyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, his mother was a fisherwoman. Kalidasa, who is the greatest poet he produced, the Maharishi, he was a hunter in the forest. I mean, he used to cut trees, the branches of trees. So, therefore, birth had nothing to do with this structuring. But in our structuring, we never treated money as a decider of social status. And when a society, money becomes the decider of social status, greed will come in. And once greed comes in, then corruption is bound to come. I had a student in IIT, very bright student, whom I had recommended to get into Harvard MBA. His name was Rajat Gupta. And one day I found when he had risen to great heights. And what happened to him? Why did he have to do what he did? It is that greed to be the richest Indian that he did what he did. Namely, trade in information, insider trading, which is a big crime in this country, and justifiably so. I have found that every